Welcome to part 15 module 2 computer networks. So we were discussing the data link layer in our module 2. So we already seen the data link layer design issues, particularly that flow control in detail. Now before moving on to the next issue, that is media access control, in between we will see the data link layer protocols, a quick review. So the data link layer protocol found on point-to-point lines in the internet are mainly coming in two common situations. So point-to-point lines, in the sense we have other than this we have the broadcast link even. So broadcast link where many devices will be connected to a common shared media, and broadcasting is the way by which you can communicate things. But when it comes to point-to-point lines, you don't have worry in that way, because here we are looking at the hop to hop communication, right, where the devices are being connected at the two ends of the media. So that is why we have the name point to point lines. And in such mode of communication, what are all the data link layer protocols, that is what we are going to see. So the first situation is when the packets are sent over the SONET, the synchronous optical network, so over the optical fiber links in wide area networks. These links are widely used, for example, to connect routers in different locations of the internet service provider network. And the other case is the local loop. So it is like this: when you are trying to connect to a network, so the SONET is something that we are using as the backbone, and from the sender machine, when you start sending some information, so the local loop means by which you are moving your information into the subnetwork. So now inside the subnetwork, which is made up of the backbone network, you can see the SONET kind of optical fiber network. So if so that is one of the popular ones, so that is where it is highlighted. So if it is a backbone network, or if it is the one that is a subscriber loop by which the user is trying to connect to the actual subnetwork, so in both cases we need some kind of point to point lines and or the point to point data link protocols. So in the sense, from your sender machine to the subnetwork, the gateway or the router to which you are sending your information for the first time, and you can view it as a point to point link, and what kind of protocols we can use there. Similarly, once it is being received by the gateway or the intermediate, the very first intermediate device, it will be handed over your information to the next main hop, maybe a router or a more powerful gateway. So whatever it is, there normally we will be using this SONET kind of backbone network, because so that will be connecting a number of such subscribers to the internet, right? So it has to be with high throughput and more efficient. And what about the local loop? Now we are normally using this asynchronous digital subscriber lines for the connection. So if you look at the SONET optical fiber network, how the point to point protocol is working, and these links are widely used, for example, to connect routers in different locations of the internet service provider network, that is the subnetwork. Now the second situation is the point to point protocols or the data link protocol being used in the ADSL links, asynchronous digital subscriber lines, that is running on the local loop of the telephone network at the edge of the internet. Okay, so by which we are having the very first connection to the internet. These links connect millions of individuals, that is individual users and businesses, to the internet, and some kind of multiplexing will be happening, and together the information will be moved as a single through the single SONET kind of network. So that about it. The internet needs point to point links for these users, as well as for the dial-up modems, leased lines, cable modems, and so on. Okay, so other than the point to point protocol, we need the dial-up modem, leased line, cable modems, etc. for making the communication possible. A standard protocol called the point to point protocols, that is name of a protocol which is being used as a data link layer protocol in the point to point lines, is used to send packets over these lines. So this is something that is explained in your Tannenbaum textbook. And this triple P point-to-point protocol is defined in RFC, that is request for comments, which is a technical documentation of internet standards. If you look at the documentation number RFC 1661, you can see the documentation of the so-called point-to-point protocol. And further, it is elaborated in another documentation called RFC request for comments 1662. And the next the successive one, and there are more upgradations even, but mainly you can see the concept from RFC 1661 and RFC 1662. So that about it. So why PPP? Actually in your textbook it is mentioned like data link layer protocols hyphen HDLC. HDLC is something highlighted, but you know the main textbook which you are supposed to follow is Tannenbaum. In that Tannenbaum, HDLC is just mentioned only, and they didn't given much attention to it. But I refer that Forozen textbook and some other textbook, and I'll be giving you an overview of HDLC followed by the point-to-point protocol. Okay, so we will see both SONET and ADSL links both apply on PPP, but in different ways. So I just thought of giving you an overview of how this point-to-point protocol can be applied over the I think SONET network, that's the backbone. I think in the textbook you can go in detail if you want to see how this PPP is being applied in the ADSL links also, but we don't have time, and that much detail is not expected in as per your syllabus. So the minimum things I will be covering. So first we will see the communication over the SONET optical fiber links. SONET is the physical layer protocol. So first of all, this we are now discussing the data link layer protocols which are to be run over the physical layer, and SONET is something that you can see as a physical layer protocol that is most commonly used over the wide area optical fiber links. So that is particularly for the synchronous optical networks. So that is expansion of SONET. So it is particularly for optical fiber links that made up the backbone of communication network, including the telephony system. That is what we are trying to say. So it provides a bit stream that runs at a well defined data rate, for example say 2.4 gigabits per second over OC448 kind of link. So that is on specification of a cable, optical cable. Optical cable 48 link, and with which is providing a data rate of 2.4 gigabits per second. So that is one sample. Similarly, we have a different data rate of this protocol. So this bit stream is organized as a fixed size byte payloads that recur every 125 microsecond whether or not there is user data to send. So we are now talking about the SONET, not the PPP protocol which is run over SONET. So the point-to-point protocol is providing a speed of 2.4 gigabits per second in a typical scenario. Like this, some well-defined data rate will be there. And also you can see that in optical fiber network, the information to be communicated is divided into some fixed size byte payloads. Payload is the actual information part that is being divided into some fixed size bytes, and that recur repeatedly, that will be repeatedly coming in every 125 microseconds. So that is the period of repetition, and you know this will keep on coming. Sometimes it will be containing some useful data, sometimes it will not contain any useful data. So whether there is data to be sent or not, the particular SONET packets will be communicated in some fixed data rate, I mean a fixed period like 125 microsecond. A particular unit of this fixed size payload will be communicated. So that about the physical layer part. Now when you are in the data link layer, to carry such packets across these links, some framing mechanism is additional, and this framing is what is provided by the data link layer, is needed to distinguish the occasional packets from the continuous bit stream. Why it is so? Because as we already seen, whether there are data to send or not, it will keep on sending some fixed size byte payloads. So now you have to distinguish between the continuous bit stream. Continuous bit stream, if you want to communicate, that will divide it into different fixed size bytes and it will be communicated. But sometimes you don't have any data to send for a long time, and after some time you will be sending some occasional packets. So in both the case, there's some kind of framing differentiation is needed, and that is being provided by the point-to-point protocol if you are using it as a data link layer protocol for the particular network where the SONET is being used in the physical layer. Yeah. So the point-to-point protocol is typically run over the Internet Protocol IP routers to provide this mechanism. I mean that fixed size payload and all, the framing mechanism, and that is being shown in the next slide. So you can see something like this. The network layer, we have the core Internet Protocol, where in the data link layer, so this is one router, then this is next router. So router to router, we have a single hop, right? And this is a one hop communication, and where these two routers were connected by means of some backbone network, let it be the optical fiber network, and a typical protocol standard which is used in the physical layer when the underlying medium is optical fiber is SONET. So SONET is now working in the physical layer, and top of that we have the data link layer where we are using the point-to-point protocol, and it's on its top we have the Internet Protocol which is using as the network layer protocol. So this completes the layered architecture or the protocol stack in a particular typical router. Similarly, same kind of stack you can see at the receiver side router also. Now if you look at the frame relationship, so this is the protocol stack. You can see if you look at the frame relationship, where, from the Internet protocol, I mean from the network layer, the IP packets will be delivered to the data link layer. So this is the protocol data unit that is being called as packet in network layer particularly. And when it is coming to point-to-point protocol, it will divide it into that fixed size frames, and so that it can be communicated over the underlying SONET which carry the payload part. And here you can see the point-to-point frames, so that framing is done. So how the boundary is chosen, and that kind of things will come into picture next. The start of frame delimiter and end of frame delimiter, some pattern you have to choose, and you can go for bit stuffing or byte stuffing. And what we are using particularly in this point-to-point protocol, we will see soon. Yeah. So that is happening in the data link layer. So now the point-to-point protocol, if you look in detail, so you can see that it improves on an earlier simpler protocol called the serial line internet protocol. So SLIP is something the one which exists as a predecessor for the point-to-point protocol, and it undergone some modification and it resulted into point-to-point protocol. And if you look at the point-to-point protocol, it is used to handle error detection, link configuration, and support for multiple different protocols. It permit authentication and more. So all those things were added as an additional thing in the point-to-point protocol compared to the traditional SLIP, serial line internet protocol. So with a wide set of options, the point-to-point protocol provides three functionalities, or three features. The first one, a frame method that unambiguously delineates the end of one frame and start of the next frame. So if you look at the point-to-point protocol, it is having its own dedicated framing technique by which it can distinguish the end of one frame and the start of the next one. So of course it will be by means of the start of frame delimiter and end of frame delimiter. So the frame format also handles error detection. So it is having facility for error detection, maybe something like a CRC or some other technique. So a link control protocol for bringing lines up, testing them, negotiating options and bringing them down again gracefully when they are no longer needed. That means for the data link layer connection to set up, it's to make a testing of the connection, the negotiation of the options between the sender and the receiver, and finally once the communication is over, the tear down, the bringing down the particular communication link. All those things were handled by some kind of link control protocol, which is coming as part of the point-to-point protocol, and it is particularly called link control protocol, LCP, in PPP. A way to and the third feature that the point-to-point protocol is providing is a way to negotiate the network layer options in a way that is independent of the network layer protocol to be used. So it can run over any different network layer protocol. So it is something independent of the next higher layer protocol. So the method chosen is to have a different NCP for each network layer support. So how it will be handling different network layer over time. So for the time being, I will be using IP as a core protocol for my network layer, and sometimes some other situation or in a different network, architecture, I will be using some other network layer protocol, but still the same point-to-point protocol has to run in the data link layer. So how it is achieving is by using different network control protocol NCP for different types of network layer protocol. So by looking at the network layer protocol, it will deploy some network control protocol. So that is something matching with that particular network layer protocol. Now for a different network layer protocol, we have a different NCP, so by which it can achieve that some kind of transparency towards the higher layer. So that about the three main features of point-to-point protocol. First of all, it is having its own well clear framing method, error detection techniques were there, and then about the link control protocol and the network control protocol. Link control protocol for the management of the link, the negation of the parameters or options, establishment and disconnecting the link, and its testing purpose. And the network control protocol is something that is used that is particular to a given network. So the network control protocol being used in one network will not work with the other one, so that you have to vary, and accordingly you can achieve that network layer independency. And that about the point-to-point protocol, we will see its frame format. But before that, let's see a quick comparison between point-to-point and HDLC protocol. HDLC is something that we are going to see only, but I thought of giving that comparison at this point. So if you look at the point-to-point protocol frame, the point-to-point protocol frame format was chosen to closely resemble the frame format of HDLC. So you can see that both of them are having somewhat similar frame format. The primary difference between the point-to-point protocol and HDLC is that the point-to-point protocol is a byte-oriented protocol, where HDLC is a bit-oriented protocol. Okay, so that is something you have to keep in your mind. So in particularly, the point-to-point uses byte stuffing, and all frames are an integral number of bytes. So that we will see. So before that, I hope it is clear, like byte oriented and bit oriented, keep that in mind. So bit oriented will be giving an attention for each and every bit being communicated, so it is a more lower layer protocol. When it comes to point-to-point protocol, it is byte oriented. It is treating a byte as a whole, as a single unit of information. So it is somewhat found to be more, it's from bit level it move on to byte level, so that difference is there. And how it in next question, how the frame start delimiter and end delimiter can be generated in a typical point-to-point protocol. So of course, as it is using byte stuffing, you can see that definitely it will be some special control bytes being attached at the beginning and end. So definitely such as the same pattern will occur in the original message also. In that case, it will be escaped by a special escape sequence, which is also a kind of one byte of information, and that will be stuffed. Now the same escape sequence itself can appear in any message, and that time you will stuff on additional byte along with every occurrence of this special pattern, whether it is a end delimiter pattern or the escape pattern. So that is how, in these things we already seen that byte stuffing concept. I think it is very clear in your mind. The same thing is being used in PPP protocol. But if you look at HDLC, instead of byte stuffing, it is using bit stuffing. And I already mentioned, like the special pattern being used in HDLC is 0 followed by 6 ones followed by zeros, that kind of a pattern. So whenever such a pattern occurs in the original message, you will be stuffing some extra 0 after the 5th continuous one. If 5 continuous ones were coming, irrespective of looking at the 6th bit, whether it is 1 or 0, that bit stuffing will happen, and at the receiver side that will be removed. So definitely because of this bit stuffing and all, you can see that the frame size, if you look into frame size in point-to-point protocol, it is found to be some integral number of bytes, because we are dividing the information to different bytes, and with each byte, if it is a special pattern being used as end delimiter of the original frames, one more byte you will be stuffing. So altogether that byte in the integral number, that is not going to change. But in case of HDLC, as you are stuffing just a bit, you can't ensure that it is maintaining the frame size to be some integral multiple of byte, something like some 30 byte, 32 byte. That is not possible. You can even have 30.25 byte, that kind of a frame length. So that is because of this bit stuffing concept. So even the stuffed bit is also part of the original message, right? So there is a second major difference in practice between these two. So that is something like the HDLC. If you can observe that it provides a very good reliable transmission with the sliding window and acknowledgement concept. Of course, with the timeout in the manner that we already studied, like and this now all those terms are familiar for you, like timeout, acknowledgement, the sliding window. So sliding window protocol with acknowledgement and timeout is what is being used in HDLC, and that makes it a reliable communication platform. Now, if you look at the point-to-point protocol, that is also provides a reliable transmission, of course, in an unreliable environment like a noisy environment, such as wireless network. The details, the way in which so if you look at HDLC, you can see that's the same technique that we already seen, that is a sliding window technique is being used in HDLC, but in point-to-point protocol the techniques will be different, but still it is providing a reliable transmission. And if you want to know the technique particularly in detail, you can go to the technical documentation, request for comments RFC 1663. However, this is rarely done in practice. Instead, an unnumbered mode is nearly always used in the internet to provide connectionless unacknowledged service. So actually, even though we have this point-to-point protocol in HDLC, those kind of concepts, but mostly we will be using some unnumbered mode of protocol which is providing connectionless unacknowledged service, because all those things were adding some overhead. So we always prefer or go for connectionless unacknowledged service until it is safe to use. And if you look at the frame format, you can see that so the bytes were highlighted here, the first byte, second byte, like that you can count. Here is the protocol field, 1 or 2 bytes you can see. The variable length payload, so that again it's a multiple of some bytes only, but variable length. And 2 or 4 bytes of checksum you can see, and the special flag being attached at the beginning and end of the frame, that is 0 followed by 6 ones followed by 0. So if the same pattern is being occur in the payload, that will be stuffed with an extra 0, and at the receiver side that stuffed 0 will be de-stuffed, and where the 0 will be stuffed or inserted after a continuous occurrence of 5 ones. If it is 5 1 in the original message, and if the 6th bit is 1 and the 7th bit is 0, it is going to be interpreted as the end of frame delimiter pattern, and it will stop reading at that point. But actually it is something as part of the payload only. Something like this should not be here, should not happen. So that is why what we are doing, we are going to break the such special flag pattern if it is occurring in the original message. So we will not allow the original message to contain the same end limiter pattern, that we will ensure. And the simplest method is the bit stuffing concept. And what are all the things I explained, and some more things like address, you can mention the address of that next hop. And this all bits are 1 means broadcasting, in the sense as it is a point-to-point connection, you don't have to worry about the address of the destination, right? Because what is being connected to the other side of the cable will be the destination. So if we have a number of devices, then you are, of course, and you are going to broadcast some information, or you are routing some information, definitely you need the destination address, because you have to locate it. But in case of the point-to-point protocol which are being used in point-to-point link, some specific address field is actually not needed. Why such a field is provided? Because we want to use it in different situations also, but here we don't have to worry much. So that is why we are just providing all bits, all 8 bits to be 1, indicating that the broadcasting is happening. Broadcasting in the sense one-to-one broadcasting, something like that. And the control information will be having different control for control packets also there, right? Other than the original frame, some other happening in the internet, it want to notify the individual users, and all that time it will be generating the point-to-point control frame, and that time you can make use of the control field. But anyway, this is something you don't have to know that field and its distribution in detail. So just control field. In this example, it is given to be 60 followed by 11, maybe some meaning. And checksum, of course, see used for the error detection part. It can be the CRC checksum or some other one's complement method or something you can use, and depending on your convenience, find out a method for error detection, and the reminder you can append in the checksum field. It can be a 2 or 4 byte is being provided by the point-to-point protocol, and end with the flag, special flag. So now the frame format, what are all the things I explained in the previous slide, I listed there here, just go through it. The special flag that is being used at the beginning and end of the frame is actually that's something we already seen, the hexadecimal value 7E, that is 0 111 7 and E, that is 111 0. So that is what is that 0 followed by 6 1 and 0. And now the flag byte is stuffed if it is occurring in the original payload using an escape. So now something extra I want to tell you is particularly in the point-to-point protocol. In HDLC and point-to-point protocol, the special delimiter pattern is the 7E only. But what about the escape byte in a point-to-point protocol? It is particularly 7D. Okay. 0x means hexadecimal 7D. Now it is doing something like this. That is, the following byte is escaped byte XORed with 0x20. Which flips the fifth bit. So something like this is happening in the sense, in normal case what you already learned is the special pattern is occurring in the message, you will always append it. You will be appending that message, some escape byte just before the occurrence of the special flag. So that's all. But here in addition to that stuffing that escape sequence, we are doing one more thing. For some kind of synchronization to achieve faster, what we are doing is, if the pattern is occurring before this pattern, we will append this, and also what is following it, that is a part of the pattern, we will XOR with some 0x20. We will see an example. And the effect of XORing with the 20 in hexadecimal is the fifth bit will be flipped. For example, the original message you want to communicate is something like 0x7D, 0x5E, right? Now you can see that the escape sequence for the flag byte 0x7E will be like this. So what happened? This means that the start and the end of the frame can be searched for simply by scanning for the byte 0x7E, since it will not occur elsewhere. So the 0x7E is something you want to communicate. This is something, the special flag pattern you are having, and that pattern, one second, I am getting a call. Let's continue. So see, the example is like this. So something you may be confused here. So this is a special end delimiter pattern 0x7E, okay, and this is a escape byte, because escape byte means whenever in the original message the end delimiter pattern is coming or the escape sequence itself is coming, that will be byte stuffed with the escape byte additionally. So suppose in the original pattern the 0x7E occurred, okay, 0x7E occurred, the end pattern. So this 0x7E is part of the payload, and that should not be interpreted as the end delimiter pattern. So what you will do, you will be attaching the special escape sequence before the 0x7E. So the 0x7E in the original payload should be communicated as 0x7E, and before that we are stuffing the 0x7D, the escape byte. So 0x7D followed by 0x7E. So that is a normal case. But here additionally what they are doing is 0x7D they will stuff, and also what is following it, 0x7E, that is the payload, and that payload they will be performing XOR operation with some special pattern called 0x20. And see the 0x7E XOR operation with the 0x20. The 0x you ignore because it is indicating that the hexadecimal value, that's all. So 7E you are performing XOR operation with the 20. So what is the result? 2 hexadecimal, what is 2 in hexadecimal? What hexadecimal 2 in binary is 0 0 1 0, right? This 0 means 40. I am not able to write it. Somewhere you please note down. Just write it in binary. 20. How you will write in binary? This is hexadecimal 20. In binary it will be 2 means 0 0 1 0. This 0 means 4 zeros. Okay, and that you are performing the bitwise XOR operation with 7E. So you don't have to worry about this E. E is 111 0. When you are XORing it with the 0, it will result E itself, E only. But when you are performing XOR operation between 2 and 7, so take the binary of 2 and take the binary of 7, XOR it. Binary of 2 is 0 0 1 0. Binary of 7 is 0 triple 1 triple 1. When you are performing XOR, you can see that one bit is being flipped, that is the 8 bit. If you are seeing as a whole, the 5th bit is being flipped. Okay, if you look at this 20 as 8 bit, the 5th bit is being flipped, or this last byte E is occurring in the message as it is, and this 7, when you are performing XOR operation with the 2, the result is 5. Okay, so you can see that the second last bit of the 7 is flipped. 0 triple 1 becomes 0 1 0 1, that is 5. So the information will be sent as the escape sequence followed by the original payload, which is a pattern, XORed with the 0x20. Hope it is clear. Now this means that the start and end frames, okay, and then that you read it. And now at the receiver side, you know, this 0x70 you are receiving, right? So that is escape pattern. So that will be removed by the receiver, because you know it is a stuffed one. And what is following it, 0x70, and that will be XORed again with the that 20. It will result the original pattern 0x7e. So in addition to what we learned in our bit stuffing, here we are doing one more step. We will byte stuffing. The byte stuffing we will do. In addition to that, we will do some XOR operation with a special pattern, and the same XOR operation we repeat at the receiver side, so that you will get the original pattern. So that about it. Okay. Also only one, so why it is done this much complicated, because always it is giving you an assurance that in the message after byte stuffing, only the end delimiter pattern is going to look as 0x7e. So if in the original payload also that pattern is occurring, in addition to byte stuffing, we are changing the pattern even. So that kind of a double synchronization is being provided in point-to-point protocol. Now between two successive frames, only one flag byte, that also you have to keep in mind. Start and end delimiter frame is there, but two frames coming subsequently, the same pattern will act as the end of the first frame and the start of the second frame. You don't have to append the pattern two times. Okay. And this, I think same is the case with HDLC also. And multiple flag bytes can be used to fill the link when there are no frames to send. Similarly, if there is nothing to be sent, you will keep on sending the flag byte only, indicating the end of the last frame communicated. After starter frame, we have the address field, means that broadcasting, like all stations are to accept the frame. That is the meaning of all ones, because it is a point-to-point communication. You can simply use it, you don't have to use a specific address field. And similarly, control field, particularly this pattern 60 followed by 11 is for unnumbered frames. There is no sequence number in that way. Otherwise, I think you can make use of this field for providing sequence number or some other control information you can provide in it. Now the fourth field is the protocol field. So what kind of payload is there in the whether it is an IP packet or some other packet. So that is the meaning of the protocol field. What kind of payload is being carried by the PPP protocol. So code starting with a 0 bit R4 IP internet protocol. It can be IP version 4 or IP version 6. It is version 6, okay, not 66. And other network layer protocols like IPX or AppleTalk. Now code starting with 1 indicating that, that protocol field. Okay, so we are talking about the fourth field of point-to-point protocol. If it is a code starting with 1, that indicates it's not a actual payload. It's something point-to-point protocol configuration protocols informations where there in the particular packet, a particular frame, including it can be the link control protocol frame or a different network control protocol for different network layer being deployed. So if it is original message, it can be IPv4, v6 or some IPX kind of or AppleTalk, and they are all starting with the 0. And if it is some kind of control and configuration information, it will be started with 1. The payload field is a variable length field up to some negotiated maximum value for this. We have a limit always. that will be negotiated between the sender and the receiver, and within that limit some variable length payload you can see. Now a typical upper limit is like 1500 byte, like what is the case with Ethernet. And padding may also be used if payload to follow the payload if it is needed, to make it some multiple of or to make it some fixed byte if it is needed. And now we have the checksum, that is normally 2 byte or 4 bit checksum as per the negotiation done at the beginning of the communication. And this is a typical state diagram, like the connection establishment, initially it is in dead state, then establishment, then authentication will happen. Authentication successful, the networking will happen, where that for different network layer we have different NCP, network control protocol configuration. And the connection is open, then communication will happen. Once the communication is over, the termination will happen, and in between authentication may fail and it can move on to terminate phase, or from established phase the connection establishment failed and it's moving on to dead. Like that, intermediate other transitions were also there. And once the communication is over, after termination, once the carrier is dropped, it will again move back to the dead state. So that about the state diagram of the point-to-point protocol. So with this we will wind up discussion of point-to-point protocol. We just seen the state diagram, the protocol structure, and some features and comparison with HDLC. Now in the next discussion we will see that HDLC protocol in detail. Thank you. And also that byte stuffing, how it is done.